The PlayStation 3 featured a shedload of shooters and action-adventure games, all competing for your attention. It's unavoidable that a few diamonds will fall by the wayside. Games are oftentimes overshadowed by the zeitgeist, that is to say, they don't fit into a specific box, they're not fashionable, or they need the benefit of retrospect to be truly understood. Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge shouldn't be considered niche. The premise, a first-person parkour platform, has all the ingredients to be a major hit. Its primary draw is the blink-and-you-miss-it traversal as you take your control of Faith, a runner who couriers information via death-defying leaps atop vertigo-inducing skyscrapers, all while skillfully evading government capture. Perhaps owing to its uniquely bold presentation and immersive platforming, this game has developed a cult fanbase. That said, Mirror's Edge deserves widespread acclaim as the experience it offers is still largely unlike anything else. Dead Space Extraction. Serving as a spin-off prequel to the first Dead Space game, Dead Space Extraction fleshes out the backstory of the doomed Aegis 7 colony as it's overrun by deadly necromorphs. Extraction is a rail shooter. Differing from your average FPS, progression is instead via scripted scenes akin to iconic arcade machine shooters like Time Crisis. The game initially took advantage of the Nintendo Wii's remote and nunchuck point-and-shoot ability, and was masterfully ported to the PlayStation 3 using the DualShock controller plus PlayStation Move. Rail shooters offer a frantic desperation. Taking aim at the stuttering limbs of multiple aliens as they creep towards you is nerve-shredding, the unsettling effect of which just wouldn't be the same were Extraction a third-person shooter like the mainline Dead Space games. The Unfinished SWAN. The Unfinished SWAN sees you taking control of Monroe, a boy who recently lost his mother, as he ventures inside one of her unfinished paintings in search of a swan missing its neck. While initially starting out in a blank canvas, you'll begin to explore by firing black globs of paint outward, revealing corridors, castle walls, and bamboo forests. The Unfinished SWAN is essentially a charming voyage of discovery for Monroe, tied into a backstory of a lonely king. It's a relatively short experience, but the compulsion to paint the void and discover its secrets, with the odd looped environment puzzle a la Portal thrown in, ensures that The Unfinished SWAN is a memorable experience. Sleeping Dogs. Describe Sleeping Dogs as merely another open-world action-adventure where you partake in criminal activity via a third-person perspective, and you'll see clearly why it's largely overlooked by gamers in favor of Rockstar's dominant GTA titles. However, sleep on this game and you'll be missing a tense story of triad gang infiltration amidst an immersive contemporary Hong Kong setting, with satisfyingly robust combat inspired by Rocksteady's Arkham series. It is perhaps owing to a few marketing missteps at the time of release that the game didn't sell enough to warrant a sequel. A crying shame, as Sleeping Dogs does enough to distinguish itself from the pantheon of like-minded games. NIER. NIER was developed to be an RPG that seemed more palatable to Western audiences outside Japan by blending different gameplay modes along with the typical role-playing mechanics. Abandoned was the turn-based menu combat in favor of more action-oriented boss battles. At the time, players and critics alike felt that hybridizing gameplay modes missed the mark. What was meant to be seamless played disjointedly. However, NIER's endearing story with themes of kinship and teamwork have ensured the title's endurance to become a cult favorite. The remastered NIER Replicant version 1.2 and so on is well worth picking up if you missed this game the first time around. LIMBO. Side-scrolling noir nightmare Limbo sits perennially within Inside's shadow, but developer Playdead's first outing, where you take control of a boy as he searches for his sister, lost in a threatening limbo, is well worth your time. Sure, its simplistic try-before-you-die puzzles might grate on you, or its opaque storytelling might not resonate, but where Limbo does succeed is in its immersive environments, punctuated by intoxicating sound design and concise soundtrack. And of course, the results of sparse storytelling is a game wide open to interpretation and perspective. You'll be contemplating the siblings' fate long after the credits roll. Binary domain. In the vast ocean of third-person shooters released on the PlayStation 3, it's somewhat difficult for a game to distinguish itself. We can only assume Binary Domain suffered for this reason. This sci-fi third-person shooter, set in a future ravaged by a sentient AI, might sound rather familiar, but stick with us, as Binary Domain brought with it a revolutionary trust system. As you play, trust is earned via commands issued to your NPC squad. However, each squad member reacts differently, requiring you to manage their individual needs to get the best of your entire team, the consequences of which will directly affect mission success or failure. It's a shame that the trust system was programmed for voice control alongside more conventional controller input. The PS3's ability to fully recognize voice commands in this game was heavily criticized upon launch. Ignore voice, and you've got yourself a solid shooter experience. Folklore. A mysterious RPG that was most likely overshadowed by larger role-playing franchises combined with its admittedly subpar graphics. Overlook Folklore and you're missing an outstanding experience centered on customizable combat. Basic attacks are handled by utilizing captured folk, essentially the spirits of monsters you've absorbed after defeat. There's a ton of unique, well-designed folk to choose from, each with attributes that can be upgraded. Up to 4 can be taken into battle with you, allowing a staggering amount of customization to suit your playstyle. Folklore's 2 playable characters exhibit differing core attributes to essentially defensive or offensive, ensuring this overshadowed RPG has valuable replayability. ECHOCHROME. A delightfully challenging puzzler that plays on your understanding of perception throughout its level design. Perhaps the game's simple black lines on white canvas presentation meant it didn't turn enough heads at the time of release. The truth is, though, that ECHOCHROME likely served as a precursor to visually stunning puzzlers of the same ilk, such as Monument Valley. Whereas the latter is as much a tranquil experience as it is challenging, ECHOCHROME's mechanics run much deeper. What it lacks in turquoise sunset gradients, it makes up with puzzles derived from 5 mind-altering perspectives, growing increasingly complex and thus satisfying as you progress. Tokyo Jungle. If you're watching this rundown looking to find a game that's wholly unique and unconventional, this is it. The premise of Tokyo Jungle is simple enough. Animals run amok in a post-apocalyptic Tokyo devoid of humans. Pick your animal and vie for survival using knowledge of the food chain as your only guide. What this means is the cute, fluffy Pomeranian dog will fare well against a chicken, but not so much against a lion. There's a whimsical charm to Tokyo Jungle. If the idea of pitting domesticated animals and wildlife against each other seems barbaric, just know it's not meant to be taken too seriously. Why else would you be able to level up a deer with a utility backpack? Terraria. It might seem strange to include a game that's sold 35 million plus copies on a rundown of the most underrated games. It's undeniable Terraria has done well, but arguably it should stand tall as an unrivaled title in the creative sandbox genre. Instead, it's consistently relegated to mere Minecraft clone, a wholly undeserved standing. Sure, a lot of the elements players of Minecraft know and love are present in Terraria. Mining, crafting, building, survival, etc. Terraria, though, is a much more adventure-centric experience, featuring a cast of varied and notable NPCs, with set goals centered on building and defending a fully functional base. There's a clear sense of progression that's lacking in Minecraft, and thus these are 2 completely different, but both equally valid experiences that deserve appreciation. Resistance: Fall of Man. It's a tragedy, really, that the Resistance franchise is dead and buried, despite the series' first entry, Fall of Man, being a PS3 launch title, and thus presumably played by the bucket load. This is yet another sci-fi shooter, and while no one expected this game to dethrone Halo, Insomniac Games, of Spider-Man fame no less, served up a solid shooting experience set in an intriguing alternative timeline where an insect-like alien race has held the world hostage, conducting grim evolution experiments on humans throughout a 50-year conflict. The game takes place in the 1950s. As such, period weapons contemporary of the time are modified with advanced technology learned from the alien invaders. In fact, tons of weapons have been alienified, presenting unconventional uses for the player, bullets which get stronger if they pass through walls, for instance. This ensures a host of specific play strategies not found in Halo, or any other sci-fi shooter for the matter, are possible in what is sadly an overshadowed franchise. The Saboteur. The Saboteur sees you take charge of racing driver Sean as he takes revenge for the death of his best friend at the hands of an SS commander. This open-world adventure does lack the polish of bigger budgeted rival titles, but what it has in clunky animation, it more than makes up for in gameplay variety. Of course, Sean's a capable driver, but there's tons of exciting missions with gunplay, sniping, demolition, evasion. Sean even has the capability to scale tall buildings and leap between rooftops parkour style. The district's cloaked in the drab black and white until they've been successfully liberated, upon which the streets become lush with color. Is a nice touch too. BULLETSTORM. Another first-person shooter on the PS3, yet BULLETSTORM is anything but run-of-the-mill. BULLETSTORM brings crass attitude akin to Duke Nukem to a bonkers, melee-heavy gore fest. Seriously, for a title with some colossal teeth-shattering gunshot sound design, it's the melee leash weapon that's the star of the show, allowing you to violently yank your enemies from afar, effortlessly tossing them mid-air like a ragdoll before spraying them with lead. It's taken a few years for this title to feel appreciated, and the remastered BULLETSTORM Full Clip Edition from 2017 sharpens up a few of the blunt edges of the original release. Killer is Dead. Mindless hack-and-slash action, incoherent story, nonsensical cutscenes, Killer is Dead is just plain daft. If this brand of absurdity sounds up your street, then keep reading, as reviewers at the time struggled to comprehend what Killer is Dead was trying to be. Players take control of Mondo, an assassin tasked with delivering savage demise via katana and arm-attached minigun to dangerous foes who are apparently tainted with demonic powers. I say apparently because it's not entirely clear. Nothing is really explained. Don't let your lack of clear narrative deter you though. The game's swordplay is slick, its dodges swift and takedowns brutal. Couple this with the distinctive contrast-heavy pop art style, Killer is Dead is a real feast for those craving stylish, trashy fun. And that brings us to the end of this video. A quick request before we conclude, we upload new videos every single day, and if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Also, don't forget to enable all your notifications by clicking the bell icon so that you can receive daily video updates. Thanks for watching.